DKT UPSC CSE। अगर आप केवल सिविल सर्विस परीक्षा के प्रीलिम्स, मेंस और इंटरव्यू के वीडियो देखना चाहते हैं तो सब्सक्राइब करें DKT UPSC CSE चैनल। यहाँ आपको टॉपर्स के वीडियो रैंक के हिसाब से अरेंज मिलेंगे। चैनल के लिंक के लिए डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में जाएं।
Hello everyone, I am Sanjana Harsha. I have secured All India rank 37 in UPSC 2021. Last year, I have secured rank 207 and have been allotted Indian Revenue Service Income Tax. In the recently announced Group 1 service results of Andhra Pradesh, I have secured rank 3. Here I have Harsha Sir with me to discuss the detailed preparation strategy that we have taken. Harsha Sir is my mentor. He teaches anthropology at La Excellence Hyderabad and also offers mains mentorship for students writing mains. The result that we see today is a combined effort. I am very thankful to Sir for being a constant source of support, giving me guidance and also taking me through the difficult times. Today, we are going to discuss the strategy we have adopted for GS and essay, for optional. My optional is Sociology, for APPSC Group 1 services, and lastly, the importance of note making and mentorship. Let us now start with the strategy for GS and essay.
So, as Sanjana madam has just discussed, the whole examination, mains is the key of the whole examination, and in mains, when we look at it, optional is the most important part of the mains. So I always tell, whenever students are appearing for mains after prelims, I always suggest that they give an extraordinary amount of importance to optional. I call it optional first strategy, because if you look at those who are getting selected time and again and those who are doing very well in the exam, they're doing well because they have they're able to score very high. They have solid base in their optional. Ma'am will discuss about sociology in particular. I guide students for anthropology, but regardless of which optional you have, whenever you are preparing for mains, optional must be the first focus. In fact, when Sanjana ma'am, she got 207 last year and she was one of the highest scorer in her optional last year. And this year when she was preparing again, she still devoted, I advised her to make that she give almost 40% of her time again for optional, because optional is the key pillar in the entire game. Once you bring your optional to a good stage, handling GS becomes all the more easier. Now coming to GS, as you know, we have GS 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 papers. Now of these 4 papers, if you look at scores wise, ethics is a very easy paper. It's a low hanging fruit. In terms of reading and effort, it doesn't take so much of effort to cover ethics, but in terms of marks, it translates very well. So focusing on ethics should be one important step to increase your score and to improve your chances. And in ethics, I think increasingly it's not a specialized subject. The way the questions are being framed these years, it's more about covering the syllabus and having concise content for each topic, each word in fact that is mentioned in the syllabus, and to that you can add examples. So ethics is all about, the question is open-ended. So the way to improve score is to bring specificity, bring some thinkers, second ARC or other reports, quote some leaders, bring some quotations, quote some data, give some examples. So these are all specificities. So the approach is to have an overall idea of the topic, and is to also, one must also have good database or a good reserve of examples, case studies, reports, so that depending on the question, students should be able to draw from this reserve and adjust it to the question. In fact, same strategy applies to case studies as well. You have about 6 case studies. So even in case studies, you will have to break the case study into as many dimensions as possible, and for each dimension, from a pre-prepared set of examples, case studies, you corroborate, you substantiate your views. That's the approach. So many students think that they look at the question and they can then generate examples. That's a very inefficient strategy, because that will kill your time in the exam. Those who are doing well in ethics are those who already have a pre-prepared set of value addition content. By that I mean examples, case studies, thinkers, whatever. They already have a good reserve of this, and from that reserve they are tapping in the exam. Now, if you are not preparing this reserve in the examination, you become slow and you are not able to write as much as others write. So in ethics, it's all about this, having concise content for all topics in syllabus and being able to develop a repository of content from which you can tap depending on the question's needs. And I think Sanjana's was scoring consistently well in ethics. Even this year, last year when she got rank also, she did quite well in ethics. And next, the other important paper that I will discuss is again GS 1. Sanjana will discuss GS 2 and 3 with you. I'll take GS 1 and 4 and pass it on to her. In fact, that is best suited because Sanjana was one of the highest scorer in GS 2 and 3 this year. In fact, GS 2 she has consistently scored high marks 3 times, and GS 3 this year she got about 100 marks, and when the highest is about 105 or 106. So that's a very good score. So I think there's a lot to learn from her experience. Now GS 1, if you look at GS 1, it's a very, very static paper, and also it's one of the most expansive paper. That is, it's very vast and wide. One very interesting observation that I've noticed is that students who have optionals in any of the GS 1 subjects like history optional, geography optional or society optional, somehow they are approaching the paper with optional based mindset, and that's also having a negative impact. So many think that if they have an optional, it will be easy to cover GS. But what my experience has shown is that when you have an optional of the same subject in GS, one tends to bring in a lot of optional depth to the GS, and that may not really serve the purpose. So in GS 1, the focus must be to cover, it's very expansive, so history, geography and society broadly. These three must be covered with extraordinary amount of detail. And when I say extraordinary amount of detail, the idea is not to prepare like you prepared for prelims. Now at this point, I would like to make it very clear that though you are writing one exam, I think you have to be prepared, you have to have the mindset that there are in fact 3 exams, not 1. Prelims is a different ball game, mains is different, and interview is different. Though all may have similar subjects, doesn't mean they are same kind of examinations. So the way you approach geography for prelims is very different from how you deal with geography in mains, for example. In prelims, geography is not given so much importance, and students have an MCQ mindset. But when it comes to mains, the same mindset will become a barrier. So in mains, you need different tuning. That's the biggest challenge with GS1. That for history, geography, many have a prelims mindset, that is MCQ, where they remember bits of information and they're trying to guess and eliminate options with the information. But in mains, you need to be able to write and analyze with a lot of attention to detail. So there, if you have that MCQ mindset, it may be counterproductive. So the approach is to take down syllabus for all these major areas, that is history, art and culture, geography, society, and then break down syllabus into subtopics and topics, and for each you take previous questions and see what are being asked. In fact, if you look at previous questions, you'll be surprised. In fact, I was surprised when I did this analysis last year for Sanjana. That is, most questions are based on very few concepts. Many say that the exam is unpredictable, but I would say that's an overrated assumption. Questions are not repeating, but concepts repeat. If you look at geography, many questions are based on disasters, many questions are coming from pollution, many questions are coming from resource issues. So there is a pattern. Now you should take time to look at previous questions and understand the patterns that repeat in the exam. So previous questions are the best way to understand the exam's nature. So take previous questions for each of this, categorize them into sub areas and see what's the zone that is being asked. If you do that for geography, you will realize that there is actually only a small range that they are covering, and now you can prepare to cover that range. That's how you should look at geography. And in geography, you can even look up, refer to the last 20-25 years questions to get an idea of what they are asking. And another interesting thing about geography is that increasingly the focus is not on physical geography. Whenever we say geography, students think it's physical geography, but increasingly the focus is on environmental issues, disaster management, and also economic issues. So in geography, in the name of geography, they are asking all of this. That is physical geography, environment, economy, and also disaster management. Indian society, the next major area is Indian society. Now that's in fact the easiest. For students of sociology or anthropology optional, in fact, they don't need extra preparation to attend to this section. And even here, the themes are repeating. Very few themes come: caste, women, family, population issues, and so on. So if you look at previous questions, you will realize that there are about 10 to 12 topics that are being asked again and again and again. And if you prepare for these broad themes, you'll be able to answer questions well. But the challenge in society is that many students write very general, very vague content. To get marks here, you should be able to bring in specificity. And next is history. Now within history, you have ancient, medieval, modern, that's the biggest chunk. You also have art and culture, the next biggest chunk. You also have world history and post-independence history. Now I would suggest students give a lot of importance to ancient, medieval, modern, art and culture. They're not asking questions from world history or post-independence history. So don't spend a lot of time on that, but study art and culture, ancient, medieval, and modern. And even here, previous questions should be your benchmark. And I'll now pass on to Sanjana to discuss 2 and 3. But before that, another related topic that we had planned to address in this is the issue of APPSC and Group 1 services. For many students who are writing civils, as we know, this examination is more an examination of rejection than acceptance. So one needs to have a backup plan in mind when dealing with such a competitive exam. And state service examinations, the next level of recruitment, they are a very good backup, and especially in states like Telangana, AP, Tamil Nadu, or even Bihar and UP, the scheme of examination for state services is very close to UPSC civil service exam. In fact, there was a meeting of the chairmen of UPSC and state PSCs where they resolved to bring all the state PSC examination syllabus in alignment with UPSC. Now that's a big benefit for those who are preparing for civils, because there is a great amount of overlap of syllabus between civil services and state service exams. So if the state service exam comes by when you are writing for civils, there's a notification issued, then you should definitely attempt it. So Sanjana had done the same, and she got 3rd rank in APPSC, and she was selected for deputy collector post. In that post, they get transferred into the IAS in about 8 to 10 years, and that's almost like getting home cadre IAS. So that's a very good opportunity, and do not miss it. And if you prepare your general studies very well for civils, a big amount of preparation for state service exams also gets done automatically. You will just have to add your particular state's history, geography, economy, and maybe any other minor topics which are there which vary from state to state, and that's not a big deal. Since you are used to more difficult examination, handling state service examinations becomes easier. So if a notification comes when you're preparing for UPSC, make sure you apply and take those exams also seriously and use them as a good backup. In case your plans here do not give you the desired outcomes, then you must have a good backup. Now I'll request Sanjana to also share her approach on other topics like optional, GS2, 3, and also on notes making.
Thank you, Harsha Sir. Now coming to GS2 and GS3, first let's deal with GS2. In GS2, there are 4 broad areas: constitution and polity, social justice, governance, and international relations. The way I prepared for the exam was to make the answers more relevant to the topic that is being asked, and to make it more specific. What do I mean by specificity? For example, If a question is asked from Constitution and polity, then I ensure that I start the answer with an article, constitutional article. I include Supreme Court judgments. I include various committees' recommendations. All this gives a nature of a holistic approach to answer. If the question is from social justice, then I write the answer with a welfare state approach or perspective. If the question is from governance, then I ensure that the entire answer is speaking about administration in particular and also about good governance, which is our dream. So what do I do in governance? I quote second ARC, I quote many case studies, international examples, how various other countries are bringing reforms in their administration, and I also try to include keywords in governance answers. Keywords will be there in every question and answer, in every topic, but in governance it becomes all the more important. And then lastly, coming to IR. For IR, I am not a person from PSIR background, so my preparation was very limited. I went through the previous year question papers, identified the major issues in IR and ensured that I covered those countries, those institutions which are in news. India, USA, India, China, India, Russia, India, Pakistan, and various UN organizations, and made sure that when I answer any IR question, it's very broad. Here I would also like to mention that I went through the scripts of previous year toppers and attempted them myself and compared my answers to their answers. In this way, I got a tuning of how toppers are approaching various questions in the exam and made myself to also go in that direction. In this video, you will find that I am attaching some of my notes for all GS topics or some GS topics in particular. Also, for sociology, I will be attaching my notes. You can find them in the description below. Coming to GS3. In GS3, I ensured that specificity is there by bringing in lot of data. I think that's the reason I have got so many marks. In economic based question, I started with a stat. For stats, I used various reports of ministries, annual reports of ministries, made few notes from that. I used budget figures, I used economic survey figures. So my economics question was full of lot of value addition in the form of data, case studies and examples. Coming to internal security, which has significant weightage of 4 answers, I ensured that in internal security, I write it from the perspective of the ministry that's involved, Ministry of Home Affairs, and what are the various initiatives the department has been taking, the case studies in that particular domain. For example, in cyber security, I used to give the example of Cyber Dome, which was again a previous year question. So you can use previous year questions not only to understand what the examiner is asking, but also as examples in the next year. So that's the reason we have to keep referring to them again and again. And for internal security, I used to ensure that I used to draw diagrams. For example, with any extremism in Northeast, insurgency in Northeast, I used to draw a diagram. I used to point out which groups operate in which states. And coming to other areas like S&T, environment, disaster management, here I refer to material given by MK Yadav Sir, IAS Hub, Forum IAS material, Vision IAS Mains 365 material, and also Sunya IAS material. These gave me a holistic understanding of what is the kind of value addition that I should incorporate in the answers, in addition to the basic content. Though this technique took some time, but it ensured that given the vastness of GS3, I covered it in total. This is my GS2 and GS3 strategy. And now let's move to optional. I have taken sociology as my optional, and this is my 4th mains with sociology. My marks in my first mains with sociology were pretty low. Especially low marks were awarded in socio paper 2. But over the years, I have understood what went wrong in my preparation, and today this year I have secured 280 marks in Socio. So it's been a constant improvement. Let me first discuss the notes, that the sources from which I made notes, secondly how to make notes, and third answer writing for Socio. Coming to sources, Nitin Sangwan is a very good book. I call it good because it covers all the topics at one place. You might not find the entire content that's needed for a topic, but you will find some amount of relevant content at least. So do refer to that book in total. Apart from that, for paper 1, I read Red Harlumbus or Orange Harlumbus thoroughly, and also made notes of Blue Harlumbus very selectively. Selectively, by being selective, I mean I made notes for research methods and methodologies, and also some of the latest findings in sociology. For example, Anthony Giddens' findings on modernization, modernity, what's the path of capitalism and industrialization that will take. So these kind of latest developments in sociology are very well explained in Blue Harlumbus, which aspirants can very wisely, by having a calculated cost benefit analysis, take notes of it. And then coming to Sociology paper 2, here I realized that there is a dearth of content in the market. So there are many coaching materials that are available and also books, but the time is very limited. So I ensured that whatever I read, I do that in a very good way. Here I found B.K. Nagla book very useful. By reading B.K. Nagla book, I understood how Indian sociologists started to understand Indian society, starting from historical perspective and ontological perspective to the more recent subaltern perspective. So these kind of various methodologies that are involved in studying Indian society help me to understand what the examiner is trying to see when he reads an answer from sociology from an aspirant. In addition to Nagla book, I referred to Nitin Sangwan, and also I referred to previous year topper scripts. Here I need to mention Srushti Deshmukh ma'am's script, which I used to refer to time and again, given that her writing skills are very good. I also referred to Vishal Shah's answer writing method. But I would also like to mention that here I took the help of Harsha Sir's anthropology guidance for answering questions on tribes, and also other socio-cultural paths, village studies for example. From anthropology, I understood what one needs to know when they are reading about tribes in India, how do we deal various tribal issues, and what are the welfare measures that the state is trying to offer and that are needed for tribes. Sir helped me get a gist of the Kaka committee report as well. And also, Sir helped me get a hang of various case studies of what are the good practices that tribes are that are making life easy for tribes, various NGOs that are working for tribes, and also in village studies, I came to know the importance of field study from understanding it from an anthropologist's perspective. Secondly, coming to making notes. For optional, note making is very much important given the vastness of the syllabus and the limited time within which we have to revise and give mains. Here, what we need to understand is that we will not find the entire content relevant for the exam in one book. So we need to sources from different books. So what do we do is we make notes in iterations. For socio, I made notes from the above mentioned primary sources and then kept on revising the notes, made them more lean as I went forward, and started to add some other value additions that I found later in some topper scripts or in newspapers. Now moving on to the final topic of optional, that is answer writing. Optional answer writing is very much different from GS answer writing because optional is a knowledge oriented subject. It's not like general studies. It's very specific it's very value loaded. So for optional, I ensured that I wrote in paras only and not in points. I made sure for 10 markers there are at least 3 to 5 sociologist views that I am incorporating, and for a 15 marker 5 to 7. And I made sure that the answer is multidimensional by involving perspectives of structural functionalists, Marxists, neo-Marxists, critical sociologists, feminists. So I ensured that this brings in a lot of diversity in my answer. And I ensured that I wrote time and again many case studies of the different sociological happenings in India and also the world around. Coming to the last topic, that is the importance of note making and mentorship. Usually what happens to aspirants is that after they take coaching, they are left in the open to write the exam. It is at this time that many aspirants face the dilemma of how to approach the exam. So I find mentorship as that bridge which is making or bringing us closer to the exam. So mentorship is a kind of hand holding where instead of telling us what to read and what not to read, it will tell us how to read and how to write. So this is specifically where Harsha Sir has been a boon for me in the entire preparation. Harsha Sir will take over later to discuss the benefits of mentorship. And now coming to the importance of note making. Usually people complain that in the exam they are not able to write answers in the given time or that they are not able to recollect. Both of these are interrelated and they are related to notes. This is because when you don't have a proper, full and lean notes, you will not be able to revise before the exam, and so you will not be able to recollect and write the answers in time in the exam hall. So having notes is very much important to write good answers and in a timely manner. When coming to note making, it is a very laborious, time-intensive process. Aspirants should have a lot of patience in preparing notes. Note making takes iterations to get completed. You may read a specific topic today, for example federalism, but for you to make notes, you will have to first refer to previous year questions to understand what are the subtopics in federalism that are being repeated time and again in the mains papers. Then first you will prepare notes on that topic, and also after you read that topic, you will take a gap of 2 days to come back and then prepare notes. This is because in that gap you will be able to make a mental framework of whatever you have read and the manner in which you have to prepare notes. So that this is the issue, these are the this content should come in the introduction, this should come in body, these are the different case studies that you have to add, and that this is the conclusion. So a delay of 2 to 3 days will help you to organize whatever you have read in your mind in a better fashion. And then after you make notes for the first time, after some days you need to come back to it to understand whether it's up to the mark, whether it is relevant to how the questions are being asked. And then you will either remove some content or add fresh content in the second iteration, and then again you will repeat this in third iteration. So note making will take a substantial amount of time, but if you invest more time before prelims, after prelims it will be just to revise it and update it and then attempt different tests. So it's better to put in more time for preparing notes before prelims than after prelims. Now let's see what Harsha Sir has to tell about note making and mentorship.
So Sanjana ma'am has discussed very extensively about optional GS 2-3, and she has also touched upon the importance of notes and mentorship. I'll just take the discussion a little deeper before we close this session. Now, to understand the importance of notes making, one has to have a perspective on the nature of the examination. The civil service examination is not really such a big test of an IQ as it is about many other things. maybe the JEE, NEET, these exams are more a test of IQ. But the civil service exam is more a test of one's organized preparation, patience, sustained efforts and consistency in learning than really testing one's IQ. So if you look at the exam from that lens, what we'll realize is that the key challenge is to read vast amount of syllabus and handle all of that and present all of that in a very simple manner. That's all about the exam. None of the concepts are really extremely difficult to understand or make sense of. But the challenge lies in studying wide range of different subjects with vast scope and being able to reduce it to its essentials and reproduce it in a simple style. And to be able to do all of this in the given time and to be able to answer questions from a range of topics in the mains examination, notes making becomes very, very important, because a candidate writes on an average about 2 papers per day, 3 days in a row in the mains. So in that high pitched, high intensity efforts, you will be able to do well in that high intensity atmosphere only when you have solid grip over the content that you've read. So how do you achieve that grip over the content? So to be able to write fast and finish all the questions in the exam, let us work backwards. So the reverse engineering. To be able to write fast and finish all the questions, you need to be able to have quick recollection. You will have quick recollection when you have revised multiple times, and when will you revise multiple times? When you have organized notes. Because if the day or two before the examination you have all the books lying around you and you're trying to read one concept from one area, another concept from another area and so on, valuable time is lost in running from one book to another, and at the end of it you still do not have a solid command over the topic. So notes should not be bulky. You should have short, concise notes such that you're in a position to finish revising one full paper like GS2 or GS3, any paper, in about 3.5 to 4 hours. You should be able to revise one paper in that duration. Your notes should be so organized that this becomes possible. So whenever you read a topic, whenever you are reading something, understand it first, absorb it and fully have it in your mind, and then when you have that good understanding, you will realize that to be able to reproduce your understanding on paper, to be able to put it on paper, you need to remember broadly the structure of the concept and next the keywords. Keywords help you generate content. So whenever you write down notes for any concept or any topic, your notes must have the structure of the topic, next the keywords, examples or any data which you want to use. So your notes must be just these three. It must be very lean and simple. The major mistake which many candidates make while writing notes is that the notes looks like another book or material. Now that's counterproductive. It does not serve the objective. So notes must be simple, brief, concise, and it must have the bare essentials which you need to just memorize in order to be able to generate the answer. You should be able to generate whatever answer you want to write from the bare minimum facts. What are the bare minimum facts and what is the structure of the topic that you need to have in mind to be able to write the answer? That should be part of your notes. To convey this point, Sanjana ma'am, both of us have put a lot of things into writing in GS2, 1 across the syllabus papers. So I'll request Sanjana ma'am to also share one of her notes from GS2 and some data notes from GS3. For GS3 especially, she has compiled a lot of data sheets. Data sheets help you have quick grasp over data. So I'll request her to share it with you to be able to understand what we are trying to tell you. That kind of notes, that kind of organized preparation is the key behind ma'am's success today. She's got 3 ranks, 3 very extraordinarily good ranks in a span of about 10 months. Now that shows that the result is consistent. It was not probably a matter of luck. The result that she got 3 ranks one after another is a vindication for the fact that the preparation was very solid and it was rooted in strong principles. That's the key takeaway. Next is the role of mentor. Today, with explosion of information and with numerous videos like just this one, there are many more videos like this, Topper's Talk, Strategy, there are many classes, there are many materials that are accessible. So the problem is no longer availability of material, the problem is now handling materials. The problem is to handle the information explosion, and that's where mentorship plays a role. So once you're preparing on your own, maybe from the very beginning, or you're preparing after coaching is done, you're now trying to handle the exams, and you're now trying to see how do I apply all that I've learnt in the classroom or on your own, how do I apply that in the exam? This is a last mile effort, because all the learning is of no use if you're not able to apply it in the exam context. So in the application stage, there are many problems about how do I consolidate, which sources do I read for which topic, how do I write answers, how do I make my notes, how do I deal with different kinds of topics, how do I revise, how do I learn from topper scripts. All of these are practical issues, and in any classroom program, these practical issues are not addressed, number one. Number two, a classroom program is generalized. It is not designed to cater to any specific individual. In a classroom, we have hundreds of students, and the class is designed to meet all of their common needs. It is not designed to meet any one student's individual specific needs. So in a mentorship, we are trying to offer a personalized attention. The idea is to offer personalized attention such that we are able to address students' individual needs. Each person has different individual unique needs, and mentorship is a platform where we can do that too. And third, mentorship also helps students to check constantly whether they are on the path or not. Because once you are out of coaching and you are in self-study mode, there is a very high risk of being isolated from the preparation. There is a very high risk of drifting away from the examination. Having good mentorship helps you stay on track, helps you stay focused. And I guide regularly many students for prelims and mains. In fact, I take away a lot of time from classes just for the sake of mentoring students who are writing prelims and main stage, because there is a dearth of mentorship today. There is abundance of reading material, but there is a shortage or a deficit of quality mentorship, quality personal attention to serious students. And I'm trying to fill that space, and Sanjana is an outcome of such an effort to mentor really serious and hardworking students and put them on the path to success. So I hope all of this helps you prepare your own strategy, evolve your methods, and face the exam and probably come out with success. We wish you all hearty congratulations. We wish you all very best in this endeavor, and thank you for giving us this time.